Hard to believe that such a large aircraft flying so slowly as he turns in front of us. I know, taking advantage of that howling wind from the left, and sorry about that. I fly A380.com. Yep, that's cool. That's a way to put your advert there. There's a fleet of 380s. A380 has flown more than 2.9 million flight hours in more than 350,000 revenue flights. How many passengers? Well, that's 130 million passengers so far. The aircraft is economic, it's efficient, allows airlines to boost profitability. Well, that's the main aim, really, isn't it? It's led to significant capacity growth and higher load factors on major routes that 380 operates on. Coming past in, well, normally it's big fighters that do this, the high alpha, slow speed pass. But look at that, as the A380 just drifts majestically through. I suppose if you got Flight Tracker on your telephone, you'll be able to see the ground speed. Now that's something we'll try and have a look tomorrow. In fact, we could probably get it on the computer if I could dig my colleague in the hips. Powering up, Engine Alliance GP 7000s, delivering 70,000 pounds of thrust each at takeoff power. Spiralling up. Keep an eye out for the 350 that I'm sure is probably lined up. Seating capacities range from 544 passengers, that's in the comfortable 4-class configuration, up to 853 in the single-class configuration with wider seats than many other aircraft of its class. The cabin flexibility is great. It allows airlines to differentiate their products and develop different layouts tailored to the market requirements as that airline sees it, with the gear being extended. Some operators might, for example, in fact, we are tracking the A380. We've got ground speed readout on that, Mark. We have. Excellent. 207 knots at this precise moment over the ground. Technology is wonderful. And there's a departure out of Heathrow that I can see as well. Got it all on our fingertips here. As I say, some operators may choose to seat their first and business class on the upper deck, providing a corporate jet-like environment while configuring the main deck for an all-economy layout. Over the black shed, lost from view for a while from me, so I'm relying very much on One Box Television. We are filming, and the 350 starting the takeoff run as the 380 turns final behind. And again, expect a very lovely display from the A350. This is the XWB. This is MSN2. Well, I told you it'd be good. Well, I think we're only going to have this flying on Monday through to Friday, not the public days. So that's great. XWB doesn't refer to me. Extra wide body A350. As the 380 touches down, here go down to the far left-hand end, down to Laffon's Plain, turn around and come back to this end of the airfield to go back into his roost while the 350 displays. Turning our attention to the 350 as he swoops down towards us, powered by 2 Rolls-Royce Trent turbofans, each with 84,000 pounds of thrust at takeoff. This is one of the original 5 certification development aircraft. First to be equipped with a full cabin interior. Rolls-Royce Trent engines, the XWB, the world's most efficient large aero engine, assembled up the road in Derby. Over 1,600 engines so far on order for these engines. Now here's an interesting fact. You can fit the fuselage of Concorde through the fan case of those engines. Now there you go. Various other versions of the 350 are around, like the Dash 900, which will seat 325 passengers. That's in the 3-class configuration. You can have a longer range, the ultra-long range, also being developed. That will have a capacity of flying up to 19 hours. Now that means Singapore Airlines have already ordered the aircraft to restart the Los Angeles and New York direct services to Singapore. A longer fuselage version, the A350-1000, will typically seat round about 366 passengers. Now that aircraft already has been assembled. It's being fitted out now in Toulouse in France, and its maiden flight is due before the end of this year. Wingspan just short of 65 meters. Length of this around about 67 meters. Nothing like the size of the 380 that's coming past. GKN Aerospace involved, the all-composite rear wing spar, plus composite components including inboard and outboard flaps of the 350, all supplied by GKN Aerospace. The 350 XWB brings together the very latest in aerodynamics, design and advanced technologies to provide a 25% step change in fuel efficiency. They're aiming for 25% lower seat mile costs compared to the other aircraft potentially around.
For the show.
Orders so
out
far
on the centre of the runway,
802
the flight
A380s have been ordered from 42 customers.
If you're near the big screen,
big
screens,
the end of last month, coming past in his low speed, graceful high altitude. It's a lovely wing, that isn't it?
And therefore out
graceful
on the internet
wing.
you'll see in the middle of the airfield a Land Rover moving out with the first of a UAV which looks like a hawk. It is actually purely a UAV. It is designed to fly and look like a bird, and indeed using bird scaring around airfields. So we've got 3 that are potentially going to fly. I will tell you a little bit about each one as they fly. But meanwhile, as they move out onto the airfield, I'm going to run down the batting order of the flying display this afternoon, and therefore gives you an opportunity to note the aircraft you particularly want to see and take photographs of. Now the weather is something I know is fully on everybody's mind and shoulders at the moment if you're outside. The answer is we don't know. You can see the cloud to the northeast. That's very heavy rain just going between us and London Heathrow. I've got a tracker up here. I'm watching the thunderstorms come through. Farnborough's curious position being in the Farnborough Bowl, that often the weather goes to the left and right of us as it comes through. I will try and watch out for any great thunderstorm coming through and give you a bit of a warning of it. We are going to have a bit of light rain and maybe a bit of heavy rain in and out, but actually the next really big horrible bit of weather is up by Oxford at the moment, and the way it's tracking it's probably going to go a bit to the east of us. So the ornithopter is firing up. It's going to be launched. It's airborne now, and it does look like a bird. The idea is to look like a bird and used for bird scaring. Now, I can't actually see it with the naked eye, but using the cameras and therefore on the Farnborough International Limited website, you'll be able to see it. My producer, who's got younger eyes than me, is looking out at it. While it's flying, let me tell you about what else we're going to have. We're going to have the ornithopter, the spotter, then the AR4, until we have the main display starting at 2:15. And we're aiming for the main display from a touring item the F-35 with a C-130 fly past. Just to fly past, then they go back to Fairford. We will be getting the F-35 again later, proper display in the afternoon. After they've flown past, we go to a couple of items from Airbus. We have the A350, followed by the A400. Then the M346 taking us after just about 2:30. Then running up to 1:45, the F-18 Super Hornet, depending on the altitude we have, whether we get the full show or not. We have up to 7,000 feet borrowed from the London TMA above us. We then have Typhoon, Gripen, Black Cats from Darman, the Dart 450. We have a small gap for a helicopter departure. Then we have the Dornier, the 328, the Antonov 178, and then to Boeing. Boeing, of course, celebrating 100 years of their existence in aviation. This week on the 15th of July. From Boeing, we're going to have the 787, the 727, the 737, the P8, and then back returning at just after 4:30, the F-35. Now, this first little UAV flapping around in front of us. I do mean flapping if you can have a close look at it. I don't know, with binoculars and long lenses you'll be able to see it. This is the Clear Flight Solutions flying display, the Robird. Been flown under a permit of aerial work issued by the CAA. Its flight profile and flight style is that of a Peregrine Falcon. You've all seen the film Kess, no doubt. Excellent film, well before your time, Mark. It's got a top speed of 350 no, 350. That's a full stop there, Stratton, not a zero. 35 kilometres an hour. That would startle the operator, wouldn't it? 35 kilometres an hour. About a 10-minute flight on its full charge battery. I'm told that birds anywhere with a radius of about 5 kilometres will keep clear because they think of this Peregrine Falcon flying around, doesn't want to become supper. In fact, Clear Flight Solutions tell me they specialise in two fields, bird control and industrial inspections. Primary skills of the team are engineering and animal-specific aviation physiological design and technology to bring this into play. CFS and 3IC together are operating a bird control service to airports, ports, waste management and agriculture in the UK. It's an effective bird control mechanism. Saves going out there with a loaded shotgun every 10 minutes and scaring the birds away. You might actually get some more birds, I suppose, that way. It's actually very clever to replicate in a UAV a bird that flies like a bird and flapping its wings and doing it. I mean, that's what man first tried to do when we tried our first flights, and we've all seen those sort of films. They all ended in disaster, certainly for the person who was doing the flapping. But this is absolutely quite incredible. It does look exactly like a bird and behaving like that. I wonder if it's got a pet name. There we are. Answers on a postcard. What should we call it? No, that's not acceptable, Mark. It's a children's show, this. So we'll leave him, it, or her to fly around for a while, and then the next one gets airborne. I will tell you a little bit about that one. So just leave him to flap around. In fact, looks like it's coming into land. Back in for spot of lunch, and the next one's being taken out, so let them set up on the runway. So now out on the runway. 2 engines started on the next UAV. It's a bit windy and gusty out there, but this is a twin-engined UAV. It's called the Spotter from Southampton University. And starting to taxi around. Just check the controls first. Taxi it around, see that you've got full flight controls available and the movability on the ground. This is, a lot of it is done by 3D printing. So this is a 3D printed unmanned aircraft. It's been said it looked like the twin Mustang or the Comet Racer or same sort of thing. So starting the takeoff run. Shouldn't take long to get airborne, and it doesn't indeed, or indeed it doesn't. Of course, you're doing 3D printing, you're going to get total accuracy every time you repeat the same part. So then you can go into mass production very easily, and of course replacing parts would be very, very simple. You just, fire up your printer in the back room and away you go. So any damage of the aircraft in the field would be easily sorted out. And it's quite nippy, as you can see. It was back in, oh gosh, about 4, 5, 6 years ago, and it smokes, it's intended to smoke. Back in 2011, the University of Southampton engineers designed and flew the world's first entirely printed aircraft, codenamed Salsa. Well, that was a dance. Or indeed a dip, he's always thinking of food. It's got dual redundant subsystems. In this way, a single point of failure have been minimised. Therefore, that's a good compromise between cost, performance and safety. Been achieved by this, the Spotter. With the quality of cameras that you can now get, very lightweight and very high quality cameras, this sort of aircraft flying around doing all sorts of surveillance, very difficult to spot. Indeed, if you try and shoot it down, would be very difficult. And so you can get your eyes very cheaply and very efficiently into areas that you would normally get. Things like, I don't know, shipping, crowd control, behind enemy lines, anything you want really. Traffic management. Spotter currently being used as a research vehicle for the AirStart project. That's part of a program in the UK funded by the Airbus Group. One of the goals of the project is to experiment with a novel idea, laser-based communications technology, providing high-speed data and situational awareness, as well as pinpointing the exact location of the UAV to beyond visual line of sight operations. Because normally you have to keep an eye on your UAV, they tend to wander off otherwise. So by having this greater technology and data linked back, your scope of range is greater and greater. It says here on the note you can go and visit the University of Southampton on stand number X. I don't think that's number 10, is it? I think we're waiting for the stand number. Airborne now is the third one, the Tekova. This is the AR4 Light Ray at Farnborough. Actually, the ARV was the first ever UAV to fly at Farnborough, 4 years ago, 2012. State-of-the-art mini unmanned aerial system. Capabilities for intelligence, surveillance, target acquisition, reconnaissance. Quite small, wingspan 160 centimetres, length 120, about 5 kilos, so what, 2.5 bags of sugar, that's all it weighs. Now yes, they recovered it back using the parachute, but it can do belly landing, so don't worry if you see the parachute come out the back, that's just one way of bringing it back down to earth. Hand launched or catapult launched. Sort of range they have is something like 20 kilometres with an operational flight time of around about 2 hours. Of course, the benefit of having a catapult launch instead of a hand launch, with a hand launch you can get just a little bit, because normally you launch any aircraft into wind. So hand launching into wind, if there's no wind, if you do a catapult launch, you're going to get a few extra knots in it straight away to get it onto wing-borne flight fairly quickly. With you've got a decent headwind, you can just lob it off on the hand and it will fly. So that's why you've got the versatility of hand launch and the other method, catapult launch. There he is, coming down by parachute. See, like a wind drift indicator. Look at that, perfect. Right, with the UAVs down and clearing the runway, we're just talking to our friends over in the Air Traffic Control Centre on the other side. They've done a marvellous job, as they always do at Farnborough, coordinating various movements. The first two aircraft, single flyby, should be on frequency, due here in about 7 minutes to open the show proper. We're just going to be confirming from which direction they will be coming. Well, I know they're coming from Fairford, but whether they're going to fly through left to right or right to left, but I'll give you plenty of warning, because this should be the arrival of the F-35 and the Hercules. And those of you looking on the big screen streaming at home can actually see a close zoom in of the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 people over in the air traffic control, coordinating the whole zone round here. And as I say, very complex airspace. A lot of the airspace borrowed from the approach and departure of London Heathrow and the various complex systems above us of departures and arrivals for Heathrow, Gatwick, Stansted, a lot of airfields around here, including Biggin Hill. So an awful lot of cooperation between agencies, because we're actually only just borrowing the airspace, we don't own it, so Heathrow could grab it back at any stage. And if the London TMA get very busy with thunderstorms in the main holding areas of Ockham, Biggin, Lambourne and Bovingdon, then they might need to do that. But at the moment, we should have £7,000 for the main aircraft that use that sort of altitude, which will be the F-18, the Typhoon, the Gripen, those sort of aircraft, and the F-35 later on in the day. Somewhat unusually, if I was a betting man, I'd have got it wrong. The flypass is due to take place from your right to the left. Normally we have the flypass at Farnborough going left to right, so this is right to left. I suppose you're pointing your way towards Fairford when you depart here, so it's probably a bit more streamlined. We could actually dig our flight tracker into service here, if I could get Mark to move. And then we can see if we could see where they are prior to their arrival. It'll be a bit of a challenge for him because he doesn't know the squawk which they are wearing, but you might pick it up, so we'll be able to check on that. So we're looking at quarter past, so just just under 5 minutes. F-35, the C-130, then the Airbus, the A350 that's been moved out on the runway, the Airbus A400 Atlas that's been moved out onto the north side, the M346, then the FA-18 at round about 2:45, 20 to 3. Don't worry, you'll know he gets airborne with the noise. Then the Typhoon, Gripen, Black Cats. From Darmond we have the Dart 450 taking us up round about 3:30. Then the Dornier, the 328, the Antonov 178. Then from Boeing, celebrating 100 years of aviation, we have the 787, the 727, the 737 and the P8. And then at round about 4:35 we have the F-35. They've been spotted to the north of the field, the Herc and the F-35, so somewhere directly ahead of us. Going left to right, going towards the radar tower, between air traffic and the radar tower, about to go past the radar tower now. you should be able to see them. Now they're going to peel around to the right, so fairly close to Blackbush. Those on the motorway will have a great show. And the Herc, the C-130, has got the in-flight drones out, the hoses out. We don't have the booms on this aircraft, so you're going to have those out. So simulating an almost close-up lock-up to take fuel. And you'll see how those hoses wave around in low-level turbulence and movements. You can see, imagine yourself trying to couple up to that in the middle of a dark night. I've done a bit of night refueling. It was quite interesting. But that, as they say, is another story, and I shouldn't have been there in the first place, and it was somewhere over the desert. Rear ramp is down at the C-130, so turning in from our right to run past. Obscured by the camera tower from the commentary position at the moment, but around the balloon sheds, I'm guessing. Okay, so cameras from the ready. Single fly past. This is the KC-135 because he's a tanker. This is the Lockheed Martin, the F-35 Lightning. Lightning II, multi-role fighter designed to fulfill the requirements of both the United States Air Force and the United States Navy. Advanced variant, standard conventional takeoff and landing, and advanced VSTOL or short takeoff and vertical landings. Very close into the hose for flight refueling. You can see the flight refueling probe on the snout of the Lightning. Smoke coming off, or is it just humidity off the wingtips? It's just the humidity, I think, unless you've got smoke winders on. No, it must be just humidity. That's a good shot. Yeah, we like that. Now we're anticipating them departing back to Fairford. Well, we've been filming them, but out the back of the Hercules, the film crew filming the Lightning II, and of course us, which I know that you all waved as we went past. Moment of glory. So the drones, the hoses now being pulled back into the Herc. Those with the long lenses will be able to see that. So back to the program here. A couple of minutes until we start the based aircraft at Farnborough. That of the Airbus A350 and the 400. The weather's going to be kind for them, as it was yesterday. Accenture, of course, sponsoring today's flying display. Partner in transformed, digitalized, and optimized aerospace and business defense. Canada, incidentally, has over 150 aerospace and defence experts participating at Farnborough 2016, Canadian Village or Pavilion in Hall 4. So the lights on of the A350, brakes released, and this is a fantastic display by this aircraft. It's a new aircraft. Starting takeoff run from the right. That's a way to depart. This is the A350 XWB, extra wide body. One of the world's most modern and efficient aircraft, powered by two Rolls-Royce Trent XWB turbofans, each putting out something like 84,000 pounds of thrust at takeoff. Dramatic climb away and then reverse to come back from our left to the right. This is MSN2, one of the original 5 certification development aircraft. It's the first to be equipped with a full cabin interior. The Rolls-Royce Trent XWB, world's most efficient large aero engine. Development began 10 years ago. First engine ran just 6 years ago. Over 1,600 engines on order. That's worth something like £30 billion. Rolls-Royce ramping up production, building 3 a week up in Derby, of course, the home of Rolls-Royce aero engines. Next year they're looking at 5 a week, then in 2020, 1 every day. That's a hell of a production increase, and here comes the 350. A beautiful, graceful wing. It's a good-looking wing. In a typical 3-class configuration, the 350-900 will seat 325 passengers. The longer range version of the 350-900, called the ultra long range, is also being developed with the capability to fly up to 19 hours. And what that means is Singapore Airlines have ordered the aircraft to restart the Los Angeles and New York route direct to Singapore, and the other way as well. Longer fuselage version, the A350-1000, will typically seat 366 passengers. 350-1000 has already been assembled, being fitted out at Toulouse, down in the south of France. Will perform its maiden flight later this year. And indeed, on day 1, yesterday, at Farnborough, Virgin Atlantic committed to an order of a number of 350-1000s. 8 they've committed to. Virgin Atlantic anticipating taking delivery of the aircraft between 2019 and 21. Mainly to replace the 747-400s and the A340-600s. The order book of the A350 XWB, orders of something like 802 already from 42 customers, and that was at the end of last month. Deliveries at the end of June, deliveries of 27 of these aircraft to 6 operators. Coming past in his high alpha, low speed pass. coming past at a ground speed about 100 knots, 1,500 feet. Extra wide 221-inch internal fuselage, as the A400 is also lining up, preparing for his display. 53% of composites going into the building of the 350. It's actually got common type rating with the 330, the A330 family. Of course, that cuts down on costs of pilot training, and of course the speed of the conversion of training is considerably shorter, therefore saving a load of dosh for the airlines. Extending the gear in front of us. And he'll be turning on to final, and when he calls final, then that will be the cue for the A400 to get airborne for an equally startling display. Airbus for many, many years have put on really terrific displays by these big commercial airliners. GKN Aerospace make the rear wing spar, plus composite components including the inboard, outboard flaps, for example. So a lot of companies are all joining together. It's not just one company that ever builds an aircraft. It's really a group exercise by a huge number of companies. A lot of them are exhibiting in these halls. Of course, Farnborough, the world's largest temporary outdoor exhibition, so there's an awful lot to see in the halls, which are dry now anyway. Ultra equipment, of course, on the 350, the ground surface panels mounted on the nose landing gear. A couple of boxes that provide the maintenance interface, so the engineers don't have to get on board. They can plug in to the aircraft. So if you've got a tech snag and you just want the engineers to have a quick look, they can just plug in, download and have a look at it from there. So the 350 turning final, the A400M Atlas starts his takeoff run. And equally a startling departure for a big aircraft. Yeehaw! We like that. 350 will land, go down to the far end of the runway, turn around and come back to its parking base. Well, airborne, we'll just wait for the 350 to land. A400M Atlas military airlifter from Airbus. Maiden flight of the medium-sized multi-role transporter took place in December '09. We first saw this aircraft, I don't know if it was this actual aircraft, but we first saw an A400M here at Farnborough Airshow in 2010. First deliveries of the type made to the French Air Force 4 years ago, in 2012. The program itself originated with the European Future Large Aircraft requirement way back in 1992. That was unveiled here at Farnborough. This is supported by the nations of Belgium, France, Germany, Italy, Portugal, Spain and Turkey. We went through a long-running evaluation phase during which the use of turbofans was ruled out in favour of the new design turboprops that you can see. Great big turboprops. fact, you can see clearly those big propellers, 8-bladed composite curved propellers at full reverse pitch, which you'll hear and see demonstrated when Atlas comes into land. The props can reverse the aircraft up a 2-degree concrete slope in incline for max takeoff weight, at max takeoff weight. And actually, what's interesting is you can see some of the propellers are going the other ways. Well, when I say the other ways, they're contra-rotating. So the propellers on each wing rotate in opposite directions to produce down between the engines airflow. Major benefits of this are to reduce wing loading, more symmetrical airflow, generate greater lift distribution, and also improves the engine out handling. Often asked multi-engine pilots about flying on the critical engine. I'm never certain whether the critical engine is the one that's still working or indeed the one that has failed. To me, all engines are fairly critical. The beginning of the aircraft build was in Germany, the first metal being cut in January 05. The end of last year, the order book for the A400M stood in 174 aircraft for 8 countries. Largest customer, Germany and France, 53 and 50 aircraft respectively. Here in the UK, we've ordered a bunch of A400Ms, 22 from memory. Deliveries first took place in November 14, and they're still going on, obviously. Estimated the export market over the next 25 years will account for some 400 of this type of airlifter aircraft. Recent order being placed by Malaysia, for example. They require 4 aircraft with air-to-air refueling. Aircraft expect to have a minimum service life of 30,000 hours, even taking into account the low-level operations, short field deployment, which is fairly tough on any aircraft. Look at that. Not quite over the 90 degrees bank, but pull and roll and then pull. Side stick, flying controls, fly-by-wire. They can be adapted to specific mission profiles. Aircraft can be used for air-to-air refueling, have installation of underwing hoses or drogue units or palletized hose drum units, whatever you want. Very wide speed envelope. Flight crew of 2. Night vision goggle capability in the cockpit, that's useful. In terms of the cargo, well, it's a very wide back end there. You can stick helicopters in. Helicopters like the Super Puma, Cutler Apaches or Tiger gunships can go in. 116 fully kitted troops can be transported on sidewall and removable centerline seats. In the casualty evacuation role, in the medical role, the type can carry 66 stretchers with 25 medical staff. Operating at speeds around about 300 knots, which is what, 345 miles an hour, something like that. Coming in for probably a steep approach to landing. We didn't have this yesterday because the weather was so vile. Unless it's a flyby. I think that if he does it from there, that's going to be really good. So that is going to be a flyby. In terms of loading, the gear oleos can be compressed or lowered down to assist in the lowering of the aircraft. Variable undercarriage, a bit like this early Citroën cars. I can't remember the name of that Citroën Hydro pneumatic type. There was a long one. I know everyone's shouting at me, telling me what it was. What do I know? I'm asking you. Oh, did you not ask me that question on air? I've just been asked if it was the XM or something. I don't know. Anyway, now look at the A400M coming in over the balloon shed. Now whether we're going to get I know we're going to get a very short landing and a demonstration of reverse. Wide angle head-up displays, 2 of those. Flight deck crew of 2. 8 fully coloured head-down displays. We have a forward-facing operational station for the tactical mission commander. So touchdown, those props into reverse. And good, he's read the script, reversing. We must find out tomorrow at briefing, Mark, whether he uses wing mirrors or he's got a load of cameras in that to have a look at reversing. That's our mission for tomorrow. Reverse pitch propellers being demonstrated now, reversing him back along. Whether he's going to turn up the side runway and then taxi forward up to its roost, he may well be doing that, would speed it up a bit more. What have we got next to taxi out? Probably taxiing out somewhere. He's still got a few more minutes to go, so he's not late. Will be the M346. They're expecting the Super Hornet, the Typhoon, the Gripen, the Black Cats, the Dart 450, the Dornier 328, the Antonov 178, the 787, 727, 737, the B8 and the F-35 still to happen. Camera crews have had a quick look at the A400M. There's no wing mirrors, so there must be some cameras hidden away on that aircraft. That is our mission for tomorrow. Or it's the bloke standing at the back saying à droite. No, it's French. À droite, à gauche. Of course, the other advantage of being able to reverse is not only going up the incline I talked about, but if you're landing on a short strip where you can't turn around, you can reverse back to the beginning of the takeoff run, get rid of your load and then just roar straight off again. Minimum time on the ground, quickest time to get the kit out. Of course, there could be another Atlas waiting to come in its turn. quite remarkable looking on the big screens and on streaming through Farnborough International's website. The close-up shots we've had of those propellers going in opposite directions around. It's quite a remarkable bit of visual effect. And it's the camera shutter that's giving that odd strobing, slowing down effect. In fact, probably if we had a real ace director in one box television, he'd be able to tell us the RPM of those engines based on his knowledge of the shutter on the cameras. There's a challenge for him. He's just said in my ear, it's just about to work it out, but they've changed speed, so we'll let him off. However, I might challenge him tomorrow. So today's display sponsored by Essentia. Reshaping aerospace, delivering operational excellence, agility and innovation. M346 waiting patiently on the threshold to our right for the A400M to leave the runway. Of course, Farnborough, world's largest temporary outdoor exhibition. I think we know that. Showcase for a sector worth £52 billion a year, the fifth largest industry in the UK. That's what we're here, aerospace and defence. It directly employs 340,000 people. Orders are topping up already at this Farnborough. Last year, the show in 2014 saw a record £157 billion worth of orders being placed. That's over 200 billion US dollars. Orders coming in thick and fast again this week. We haven't got the running total. We start actually paying attention to those in Wednesday and Thursday. Of course, the flying started here at Farnborough way back 1904, the Army Balloon Factory. And of course, Cody's first flight, 1908 from memory. Of course, this show took its history from the Society of British Aerospace Constructors, when they had a tiny little show. Gosh, it must have been about 16 aircraft way back in the 30s, 1932 at Hendon for the Hendon Air Display. Then it moved around, went to Radlett, then came here. A load of firsts have been seen over the years here at Farnborough. A truly massive Bristol Brabazon, which probably is not that massive now compared to the 380. 1949 flew here. Saw the UK introduce the first jet airliner, the Comet, into service. Of course, that went on to be successful in the Nimrod, used with the Royal Air Force way up to, gosh, only about 5 years ago, 2011, something like that. Nimrod replacement we'll be seeing later on. Of course, we saw things like the Gloucester Javelin, the V-bombers in the 50s, the Valiant, the Vulcan and the Victor. We saw the Hawker Siddeley, the P1127 here at Farnborough in the early 60s. Of course, that went on to become a much more famous aircraft, that of the Harrier. Loads of firsts have been involved at Farnborough, the birthplace of British aviation. Now out on the runway, waiting his clearance to take off, checking he's got the altitude for what he wants to do. He's been decide to do the full show or the rolling show. This is the M346. From Leonardo. This is the M346 Linea Aramaki, advanced training and light attack aircraft. Starting to take off. Airborne, climbing up to around about 1,000 feet, rolling to the right, powered by two Honeywell F124 twin turbofans, rated around 6,200 pounds of static thrust each into a tight 360-degree turn. Pilots sit on Martin Bakery 00 ejection seats, hands on throttle and stick, round the 360-degree turn, hard G to roll out of that into three-quarter aileron roll, parallel to follow with a wing over. Terms of self-defense, radar warning receivers, chaff, flares, underwing ECM pots are available. Maximum rate of climb at sea level is over 22,000 feet per minute. Upgraded flying control software allow for maximum angle of attack that's something like 35 degrees. Specifically designed to provide stability, argumentation and envelope protection throughout the entire flight envelope. Flight test program was around about 700 hours of flight testing. Prototype used for handling and performance trials in order to expand the flight envelope. The second aircraft used for avionics testing and flight refueling. Aileron roll. Pitching up into the vertical. Gone into the high display, into a loop. Italy has already committed to take 15 M343s. First two were delivered to the Air Force in December 6 years ago. Orders have been received by the United Arab Emirates, who require 48 aircraft. Singapore signed for 12. Israel taking 30. Something like 1,650 airframes they reckon are going to be in service at the end of its life. Stress to +8 and -3 G. Long inverted pass. It's got excellent turn and climb rates. We're seeing that, along with the usable angle of attack. Allows fighter-like performance to be experienced. Twin engine reliability, quadruplex dual digital fly-by-wire. You can crack along at speeds, max level speed around about 560 knots, which is just through the speed of sound-ish, Mach 1.2 at sea level. The other end of the flight regime, stalling speed with the flaps out is a mere 90 knots. Also a fighter version just announced. Italy's Leonardo Finmeccanica unveiled here at Farnborough its new Aramaki, the M346 FT multi-role version of this aircraft that you see flying. That was announced here at Farnborough. And the very latest update since the trainer's introduction, 68 units have been ordered by the air forces of Italy, Singapore, Israel and Poland. As I said, already ordered by UAE, United Arab Emirates. runway to our right. Super Hornet firing up. This is from Boeing. This is the FA-18 Super Hornet into the display. Well, that's a lot of grunt. Getting airborne, doing a roll still with the gear and the flap out. Coming round to a simulated strafe attack, return to the the show centre. This is the low show that we're going to see due to the cloud base. Simulating a surface diving attack at 50 degrees nose down. I'm told unless he's changed the medium show, which he does. Yes, there's a quick potential strafe run, not certain. There it goes. Pull up. Look at that. Wow! Straight into the abrupt pull, up to 90 degrees nose high, unrestricted angle of attack. Now moving round for the Immelman pitchback. All the car alarms throughout Hampshire going off. Look at that. Whoa! Another abrupt pushback. And now positioning for the Immelman pitchback. Taking advantage of a little gap in the cloud there. Super Hornet accelerating for a pull into the vertical and over the top in an Immelman pitchback, followed by the pirouette. Those engines, the F414-400's been uprated. Get a lot more grunt. Of thrust in afterburner. Those controls, full digital fly-by-wire, operate all the controls, ailerons, tailerons, wing-mounted flaperons. Martin Baker supplying the seats. In terms of armament, the Super Hornet can carry everything the United States have in its arsenal. At least 29 different weapons combinations are cleared for use, even before the aircraft's type entry into service. Coming around in his high angle of attack pass, right back. Coming back to round about 30 degrees angle of attack, round about 160 kilometers per hour, we've got about 90 knots, something like that. Just hanging there. And then no doubt the power will come on of those turbofans as he reaches the end of the runway. So accelerating out from that high angle of attack pass to go left to right, accelerating to around about 1,000 kilometers an hour. We'll try and convert these into knots for tomorrow if you're still here, for a low-level knife edge fly past. Pitch up, check, roll, and hold it all the way down the display line. Good for the photograph shots. Roll and pull. Positioning now for what they call the Thunder Pass. fantastic for those of you down in the New Forest. Super Hornet positioning for the Thunder Pass, low speed, lights the twin afterburners, then right in front of us, an eye-watering pitch rate and agility. So watch for what he does to call this the Thunder Pass. You can see the Taylor-ons working overtime there. Heavy, high G, stopping the acceleration, staying max loaded, keeping well within the air display boundary with those afterburners in. See that rate of acceleration going downwind, upwind, whichever way into wind. Our tracker's not working up here in air traffic. We had it yesterday. All we're tracking is a Thompson 757 at 30,000 feet, so that's not very good. Coming round for the loaded roll. Sort of implies he's going to do a square loop, but I don't personally believe that with his cloud base. That's a loaded roll. Oh, look at that. Wow. Ooh. Crikey. That loaded roll, lots of positive G straight into a high load of negative G. Vile. Oh. Maximum level speed at altitude, Mach 1.6. Surface ceiling up at around 50,000 feet. Coming back in for the approach, round about 125 knots on the approach. Well, what a magnificent performance as always from Boeing and the FA-18 Super Hornet. Part of Boeing celebrating 100 years of aviation on the 15th. Typical combat radius with weapons load is round about 1,000 statute miles, just over, as in comes the Hornet to land over the pub at the end of the runway called the Swap. That's a beast of an aircraft. And we go from one formidable aircraft to another one, again with a lot of noise, moving out onto the threshold. Oh, folding in the wings, part the wings of the Hornet. Takes up less parking in the aircraft carriers in which it will be deployed. Glad we saw that on the camera, because out on the right, lined up now, is Typhoon. We don't know whether we're going to get the full display or the flat display of Typhoon. Clearance up to 7,000 odd feet there, so maybe going for full display, but here comes the Eurofighter Typhoon. This is a Typhoon with a full phase 3 enhancement weapons fit. Flying with the latest weapons fit displaying for the first time here at Farnborough. It was at the Royal International Air Tattoo last weekend. Typhoon demonstrates carrying 4 Meteor beyond visual range air-to-air missiles, 2 Brimstones, 2 low collateral precision strike weapons. It's also got ASRAM, 2 Paveway 4 laser-guided precision weapons. Nat Makepeace from BAE Systems Typhoon. He's the experimental test pilot. This is one of the very first times a Typhoon aircraft has flown with this weapons fit, and it demonstrates significant milestones which have been achieved towards the integration of these new capabilities onto Typhoon. Typhoon provides air forces with a highly capable and extremely agile multi-role combat aircraft, capable of being deployed in the full spectrum of air operations. Tight 360-degree turn, high G, coming back in on the 45 towards us. Development of the aircraft traced way back to the early 80s, 83, when the Air Forces of France, Germany, Spain, Italy all got together for a common combat aircraft. Well, the development has gone on and on. Phase 1 enhancement on the aircraft last year, the underlying Typhoon, the high-end multi-role weapon system was matched. Phase 2, gain a deep attack capability through the integration of Storm Shadow air-to-surface deep strike missiles. And this, the Phase 3, we've already talked about it. Much of the aircraft structure, carbon fibre composite, powered by 2 Eurojet EJ200 advanced turbofans, chucking out round about 20,000 pounds of thrust with afterburner. That comes to true. Typhoon in front. Aircraft has in-flight refueling capability. Can also carry up to 3 external tanks on wet hard points. Control is via inboard and outboard flaperons on the trailing edge of the delta and the rudder, and all moving 4 planes located just below the windscreen. We can see that. Quadruplex fly-by-wire control system. You can see it's extremely agile as a fighter. By the end of last year, Typhoon had over 570 firm orders. 450 aircraft had already been completed. Type also being bought by Austria and Saudi Arabia, Oman and Kuwait, also expressed commitments to take a load of them. Out on the 45 after a barrel away and then turning back for a long inverted pass. Typhoon available as a single-seat or 2-seat aircraft. The 2-seater is also a combat-capable conversion trainer. It can crack along at Mach 2, twice the speed of sound. It can accelerate from 200 knots to Mach 1 in mere 30 seconds. Pushing, inverted. Back onto the 45, the afterburners cracking in briefly for a quick acceleration away. You can see the rate of acceleration very clearly. Typhoons, of course, with the Royal Air Force on standby 365 days of the year in the United Kingdom as part of our air defence. Coming back in towards us over the balloon sheds. Advanced hands-on throttle and stick systems, wide-angle head-up display, forward-looking infrared. Nicely inside the airfield boundaries. See him accelerating 360-degree turn. Quick roll to pull right into the downwind area circuit, and I believe then we're going to configure for a slow speed pass. Positioning for a 45-degree in, yes, that's what he's doing. Going to roll or slow to the configuration. That's it, putting the gear down into a slow speed pass. Drifting by Eurofighter Typhoon. Accelerating away. Powering up, heading up towards the M3. Then I believe positioning to come round to land. That is the Eurofighter Typhoon Phase 3E capability aircraft from BAE Systems. Did I say what nations have ordered it? Can't remember. Well, I'll tell you. UK, Germany, Italy, Spain, Austria, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and the Sultanate of Oman, and the State of Kuwait. So the Black Cats to get airborne, to hold. They will be coming back in to display a little bit later. Behind them, the Gripen is taxiing out. And then we're expecting from Darman the Dart 450. And a slot for a helicopter departure. Then we're having the Dornier 328, the Antonov 178. Then the 787, 727, 737, the P8, and then the F-35. Remind you that Sensia, the sponsor of the flying display, focusing on digital revolution, navigating, reshaping aerospace and defense. Just confirmed with air traffic, we do have the 7,000, 8,000 feet above us. Actually, we've got 8,000, but we only give the pilot 7,000, so it doesn't startle any of my colleagues in commercial aviation going across the top of Farnborough with the climb rate of these aircraft. So we've got the altitude for Gripen. I don't know which display he is going to do. We missed the call to air traffic. I wasn't totally listening. They've kept us up to date brilliantly. So starting the run, this is from Saab, the Saab Gripen. Smoke winders on. Been pointed out to me that I talked about orders from last year, and those of you who know that Farnborough's every 2 years. So when I say last year, I do actually mean 2 years ago, now and forever. Into the display, Saab Gripen, multi-role fighter designed to replace the outstanding Viggen aircraft. Of course, Saab itself has a long history of manufacturing successful military aircraft. Gripen is a truly versatile aircraft, single or two-seat, all-weather, all-altitude interceptor, attack and reconnaissance aircraft. It's been around for some time. Maiden flight was way back in '88, in December, early December, '88 I think, around about the 9th or the 10th. The development, training and conversion, around about 1,800 hours. Much of the development, including that of the head-up display, was undertaken in its older brother or sister, the Viggen. Going round in a wing over as we try and work out which is doing the high or the low level display. We're going for the full display, I've had confirmed. We'll see in a moment, because if he does a loop, that confirms which one we're doing. Well, that looks like we're going for the loop, so that is the full display that we're now looking at, which is terrific. Swedish Air Force had ordered a total of 204 aircraft, both variants, the two-seater, the single-seater. Into a high G, climbing turn, powering away on that engine. Talk about the engine, I'll tell you what it is. General Electric Volvo, the RM12 turbofan, just over 18,000 pounds worth thrust. Martin Baker again doing the seats, they do it for a lot of these aircraft. Type is designed to operate from short road sections. When I say short, around about 800 meters, which is a standard Swedish Air Force's wartime procedure. It's got its own built-in auxiliary power unit. APU makes the aircraft independent of ground heavy equipment. Been turned around in less than 10 minutes by a crew of 1 technician, 5 semi-skilled or conscript flight line mechanics. Partnership started some 20 years ago between Saab of Sweden and BAE Systems to develop this aircraft. Been sold to Brazil, the Czech Republic, Hungary, South Africa and Thailand. Landing gear provided by AP Precision Hydraulics with Goodyear wheels. Getting ready for the high-speed fly pass, which is Mach 0.9, which is the maximum speed we allow anyone to do here at Farnborough. Just shy of 600 knots. To a high G turn, 9G, 9 times the force of gravity. Effectively everything weighs more. If you can imagine yourself holding a pint of beer, pulling 8G, you're now holding a gallon of beer. That's what it feels like. Everything going southbound. Back in towards us for, I believe, a 360-degree roll. But that looks like it's going to roll in front of us in a climbing roll. So like 4 years ago, Gripen NG, or Next Generation, was announced. Project primarily centered around the single-seat aircraft. Latest Gripen is slightly larger in dimension. 2 additional weapons stations. The engine has been upgraded. Type features include larger air intakes to help the engine. Landing gear new, main wheels retracting into the wings. This arrangement has allowed a 40% increase in fuel capability. Coming back to the other end of the speed regime, round about 100 knots, 115 miles an hour. Slow speed pass, high angle of attack. Into a high alpha turn. Sitting round about 500 feet. Well, I expect spot on 500 feet. Into the high alpha turn, accelerating up to around about 250 knots from this 100 knot flyby. 2-seat versions, still full combat capability. Gripen can carry a payload of something like 7.2 tons. Unrefueled combat range of 700 nautical miles, which is just shy of 1,000 miles statute. There's a Sea Gripen variant of the Next Generation is also under consideration. In on the 45 to pitch to into the vertical. High angle of attack over the top of that into just sort of really hanging there. If you watch when he comes into land, the independent foreplanes used for snow ploughing after landing helps reduce the landing run. Also speed brake on either side of the tail. You'll see the, I think, the short landing distance. I haven't seen his display. We rather got rained out yesterday. Round for a Derry turn, named after John Derry, very famous British test pilot who flew for many years here at Farnborough, rolling under, changing the reverse of the turn, and that is the Derry turn, the John Derry turn. Up to about a height of 500 odd feet. Heading out towards the M3, not allowed to go north of the M3 below 2,500 feet. I've paid attention at briefing this morning. Gonzo did yesterday. Gear being extended. And I think for a short landing, probably round about this sort of weight, 400 meters, something like that, the landing run of Gripen. Certainly remember Viggen and Draken displaying before here at Farnborough. Occasional noises off mic you'll hear is the creaking table that I'm sitting at, which we're trying to adjust for tomorrow. I have a sneaking feeling it's going to collapse. Maximum operating altitude of Gripen is around about 50,000 feet. Stress to plus 9G. Comes in, watch the snow ploughing effect of the four planes. Into a fairly short landing run. And now hustling off to taxi off. In from the right from the Royal Navy is the Black Cats. This is the Royal Navy helicopter display team. In the new Wildcat. Been running since 2001 as a display team. This is pilots, observers, engineers drawn from 825 Naval Air Squadron based down at Yeovilton in Somerset, same place as the splendid Navy Museum, the Fleet Air Arm Museum. 825 trained pilots, observers, engineers to operate and maintain aircraft both home and on land and around the world on the back of frigates or destroyers. Running in towards the centre. I suspect this is time to get a good shot when they break. Close break before the aircraft go into flat turn before joining up in echelon left. It says here. Well, close formation in helicopters and reversing is not an easy task at all. A lot of dirty air being thrown up by your mate upwind, so you've got a plan of where the downwind wash is going to go to keep in clear air, and you've got the wind itself, turbulence over the tag hangars on the north side. Backwards at around about 50 miles an hour in formation. That takes some doing and a lot of practice. I guess they don't start practicing that close together when they start it. They slowly get closer and closer until they go, that's enough. I know we're mates. Now remaining in echelon, flying outbound for formation wing over. Accelerating forward. In terms of the tech spec on the aircraft, Wildcat, max speed around about 180 miles an hour. Can go up to 12,000 feet, has heavy machine guns, has Stingray torpedoes, can have a couple of those. Depth charges, has chaffs, flares. The use of the helicopter in the anti-surface warfare, anti-submarine, should they say it's ant-submarine here. Very small submarines. Watch for this running in for a break. So ant-submarine warfare, search and rescue, helicopter deliver service, reconnaissance and surveillance. So with them going left and right, 1300 shaft horsepower from the engines, the T800 engines. They got a couple of them in each aircraft, so 4 of them. Opposite wingos running in towards each other, accelerating hard and heading straight for each other. Closest part of the display. This is going to be at around about 230 miles an hour closing speed. Chris closest to us, Dave the other side. Dave Lilly, Lieutenant Chris Rebeck, his mate. Going down to the left and right of the crown line for another wing over. Utilise the full envelope of the aircraft's ability to turn the aircraft through 180 degrees and back towards each other for the roller coaster. This is done by, as they run in, they pull the cyclic climbs that will exceed initially 4,000 foot a minute. You don't keep going for long doing that. Almost to a hover and a halt. And a steep nose down. Crossover while still accelerating. Certainly showing the ability of the Wildcat. Taken over from the Lynx. They used to use the Lynx, which itself was a fantastic helicopter, a very agile helicopter. Quite a close crossover there. Running back in for another cross, high speed from the left, low speed from the right. Wing over. From the Royal Navy down at Yeovilton, 825 Naval Air Squadron, the Black Cats with Wildcats. Lining up on the right of the runway is another very new aircraft. This is the Dart, the 450 from Diamond, who have displayed here for, again, many years. This is the very latest aircraft from the stable. We're going to get an aerobatic sequence. Rolling, rolling, rolling. The Diamond 450. Oh, I've got some dirty looks at my singing in the commentary position then, I don't blame them. This is the 495-pound horse turbocharged engine, airborne, with the Diamond 450 behind. Takeoff distance, well, less than 600 meters. Landing distance, less than 400 meters. Put that into feet, less than 2,000 foot to get airborne, less than 1,500 feet to land. First flight only a few months ago in May 2016 in Austria. It's been through an extensive test program to confirm the intended flight characteristics and clear the initial safe envelope. They've had some good results. Positioning round, having climbed away to descend on the 45 degree for a roll on the way down. Stress to +7 and -4 G in the aerobatic category. In the utility category, a little bit less, obviously, +5, -2.4. Two-seater. It says optional ejector seats. So running in now. Pulling up, disappearing from view from us, above us. Going around through a 180-degree turn. He's probably doing the poor weather display into a Chandelle, into a wing over. In aerobatic terms, left and right is the A axis, directly towards you and away from you is the B axis. Flat horizontal turn. This aircraft, very, very new indeed. And, we haven't quite got the altitude in the airspace that the pilot wants. Igmar Meyerberg, who's the chief test pilot of Diamond. Full carbon composite materials. It's got FADEC control engine with mechanical emergency backup system, side stick control. Nose up to the 45, roll and probably check there, disappeared again from view. I'll have to wait till he comes back down, using full advantage of one box television monitor. Down again on the 45 degrees, completing the roll. It's like quite a fun aircraft to fly. Hint, hint. This is the Dart 450, and I know you're all dying to know why it's called Dart. Well, it's Diamond Aircraft Reconnaissance Trainer. And the 450 relates to the power plant, which actually is 495 horsepower. So I'm at a loss. In its training role, basic training, aerobatics, mission reconnaissance training range, round about 1,500 nautical miles. Again, a barrel roll. Two underwing hardpoints are available on this aircraft, the 450. Other stuff you can put on it, ventral pods for all sorts of use. Other aircraft being repositioned around the airfield, getting ready for their flight. As again, Igmar comes in to a barrel roll. Standard sort of aerobatic G limits, +6 and -4G. Fairly standard nowadays. Igmar popping out the gear to position in for a landing. Fairly short landing. Remember what we said, less than, if you were paying attention, 400 meters. Deciding not to position in for landing, that teaches me to believe the script. A slow speed pass with the gear and the flap extended. Having a closer look at the aircraft on the big screens and streaming on the Farnborough website. I've just been joined in the commentary position by the Blades commentator, who comes bearing gifts of chocolate cakes. You're very welcome. Indeed, the cakes are also welcome. So guessing now, positioning for downwind to land. We then have scheduled a gap for a couple of helicopter departures and arrivals. They probably go, well, I don't know whether they go from the north side or over our left-hand shoulder. Comes into land, just looking at the weather around us. The weather here is good. It's rather fantastic down in the New Forest as well. Steep approach into land of the 450. We have the Cats back tomorrow, and as I say, so we've got still to come the Dornier 328, the Antonov 178. From Boeing, we have the 787, the 727, the 737, the P8, and the F-35 still to display. And actually, the weather is getting better and better as we go through the afternoon, which is exactly what Darren, the Met man, did tell us at briefing would happen. To be fair, he didn't tell us yesterday what was going to happen. We'll see how he does tomorrow, see if he gets like Meatloaf, 2 out of 3, not being bad. And here's the Drummond aircraft slowing down. So we're looking around the airfield to see where the Dornier 328 is. I actually haven't seen it taxiing out. Not certain, it might be on the south side. That's the Dreamliner, the 787 in ANA colours, being moved to the north side for preparation for its flight. 727, I've seen that one being moved around. That's over by tag at the moment. Not due on for another 20, 25 minutes, something like that. So we're nicely on the planned time. Remember, on your way out, if you want traffic and travel reports when you're local, listen to the airshow radio. When you go into traffic and travel mode, once the show ends, and gives you a good idea of what's going out. Just follow the signs, take your time, don't go mad, and it'll all work well. The marshallers have done a fantastic job getting people in and out, and certainly yesterday in very difficult conditions. If you follow them, follow the signs, it will work a lot better. If you try and be smart, you'll end up probably in a cul-de-sac that's not going to help. Dornier now has been spotted coming out from the south side, the 328. So the 328 now at the end of the runway, patiently waiting his turn to display. This is the Dornier 328 starting his takeoff run. This is the jet version. I think later in the week we have the turboprop version displaying. This regional aircraft being dramatically updated, brought back into production by TR Jet. First time we saw a 328 here in Farnborough was 12 years ago, 2014. That was the last time we saw a version, but of course this has all been updated and modernised and brought right up into the very latest variants that you can have. Company looking after this, TR Jet, brand new OEM based in Turkey. Two versions, I say turboprop and the turbojet versions. Variants of this aircraft include a 32-seat commuter. You can have Medivac, a VIP configuration. You can have it as special missions, maritime patrol. You can have dedicated cargo transporter. Actually, the cargo variant will feature a large cargo door as an option. Air operable door also available to support parachuting dropping. They're anticipating that this type of aircraft, the new production design, will be certified in service by 2019-20, something like that. They've also got plans for a new, larger design aircraft on the drawing board. That'll be the 723. All sorts of stretching that you could do and different variants for different configurations, for different lifting capabilities that you want. APU supplied by Honeywell, another exhibitor here at Farnborough. 2 meters of stand-up height in the center aisle. So what that's in proper language about my height, 6 foot and a bit. That's proper language, I can understand that. It's got good cruise speed at altitude. You saw a fairly commendable short takeoff run at the max all-up weight, max takeoff weight, only about 1,100 meters of runway. Doesn't take long to get up to 35 grand, around about 14 minutes. Some of the other new advancements they've done in this aircraft, very much a rehash, rebuild, redesign aircraft, the 328. Very latest generation of avionics suites will be installed, and they're going to use the Rockwell Collins new fusion system. That provides a three-screen EFIS with touchscreen capability. That's snazzy. The suite also provides weather radar, TCAS, enhanced GPWS with wind shear detection. What's interesting, between the two, the turboprop and the jet will have exactly the same maximum takeoff weight of 15,660 kilos. Well, we wish the Dornier and the 328 and the turboprop turbojet all the success in the future. No doubt we will see production aircraft here at Farnborough in 2 years' time, 2018. (16th to the 22nd of July 2018 are the dates for Farnborough. Steep approach, sort of thing that it can operate into places like London City Airport, into places that have difficult terrain running in or built up areas. So steep approach into London City, and of course short landing can be done. So it really enhances the ability of where it can go. Great registration. I just saw that myself. You can just, that's it. It's D-Bird. Oh, good turnaround on the runway. That's useful. As the Dornier leaves the runway, the 178, the Antonov 178 has lined up. On the north side, the 787 is starting engine 727 very shortly to start up, 73, B8 still to come, and then the F-35. Power coming up on the Antonov, on the Ant, the 178. Progress D346 turbo fans installed, 17,372 pounds of thrust. This is the latest development in the family of regional jets, which include the Antonov, the AN-146, the 158 and the 168. The original, the 148, only dates back to September 2001, when Antonov announced that it was working on a regional airliner design to fly 80 passengers in a range of around about 1,300 nautical miles. The construction commenced the following year in 2002. And the formal rollout of the 148 was in October 04. Well, this one is the 178. So it's a complete family of aircraft from Antonov. Production of this family of aircraft is split between Kiev in the Ukraine and a totally unpronounceable place in Russia. Voronezh. Read ahead, Stratton, it makes it so much easier. 148 typically carries 75 passengers, available in both short and long range versions. However, the type is extremely versatile, as you've seen, its operating performance. Extremely versatile. Specialized variants of the airframe include the VIP configuration. It can do maritime reconnaissance, medevac, small parcel freighter, palletized cargo freighter, anything you want, really. 158. That was originally, actually, if you remember, the 148-200 series, but now called the 158. It stretched, 99 passengers, bit longer legs, up to around about 1,600 nautical miles. Now the 158 produced solely in Kiev in the Ukraine. Again, can be cargo version with a rear ramp available. The 168, that was called the Antonov Business Jet. 168, essentially, really, I suppose, a 146 fuselage, but the rear doors have been got rid of, winglets installed, a little bit of mucking around. But this one here displaying is the very latest of the family of the Antonov aircraft, the 178. The development type of this was announced in 2010. Maiden flight took place in Kiev on May the 7th last year. They've since uprated the engines to the 148 FM versions. Antonov anticipate the market for total around about 1,100 aircraft is what they're aiming for. We wish them all the success. Now the aircraft they're intending to replace, the 178 being the development of 158, it and its sisters, intended to replace the old Antonov, the AN-26 and the 32. Lots of commonality between the family of aircraft, but just very different variants. They can carry all sorts of things, 3 Humvee-sized vehicles, 72 troops, 68 paratroopers, 40 stretchers, not all at the same time. It's got a good airframe life, around about 80,000 hours. That's probably around about 30 years of service or 60,000 landings, that sort of thing. Depends on really where you deploy the aircraft to what the lifetime span is. It's quick to change an engine. If you lose an engine or have to send one away for service, it takes just 2 hours, a couple of hours to change the engine. It's capable of landing on unpaved landing strips. So rough old operating places it can go, which is very, very useful. Landing run of just over 1,000 meters. I'm not certain we're going to see a short landing today or not. This is the first time I've seen it fly here at Farnborough, but just a fraction over 1,000 meters to land. Five-screen display applied Aviaport, comms by Rockwell Collins, capable of Cat 3A landings. Means you don't have to see a lot out the front. While that's been happening, the Dreamliner, the 787, has moved out. 727 due to move soon from 2XL. One has moved there, but under its own power. That was towed over there. God, people are pedantic in here. 737 still to come, the P8 and the F-35. So this wonderful aircraft from Boeing, this really a very graceful, pretty aircraft in the sky. When you see her fly, the beautiful wing shape, I think you'll agree with me. This is the Dreamliner. This is the 787-9 here at Farnborough. This is the second variant of the 787 Dreamliner family. Entered service in June 2 years ago. in the all Nippon Airways livery. Well, how about that? Celebrating their centenary of Boeing in a few days' time on the 15th. They're celebrating it here in style at Farnborough with the Dreamliner. All Nippon Airways, or ANA, launch customer of the 787 Dreamliner. They are the largest so far operator of 787 with more than 80 orders for the Dreamliner family. Indeed, today marks the first Japanese livery aeroplane to perform a flying demonstration at Farnborough Airshow. Indeed, ANA has decorated its livery with two distinct decals to commemorate this special occasion. "47 of those 80 orders, 787s, already been delivered to ANA. Today's flight under the command of Van Cheney, chief pilot for the 777, and Randy Neville, former chief pilot of the 787 program. In fact, Randy was in fact part of the crew of the original 787-8 when it made its maiden flight in December the 15th, 2009. It's a very efficient aircraft, the 787. Low noise footprint. It's very quiet. The level of noise inside is very, very quiet. It's like a low rumble. Since the 787 family entered service in 2011, it has amassed some impressive statistics. 425 deliveries, 500,000 flights, 1.2 billion revenue miles have been flown, and isn't that graceful? 96 million passengers flown to their destination, and because of the efficiency of the wing and engine configuration, £8 billion of fuel have been saved in comparison to previous aircraft. 175 knots at the moment. We got our flight tracker back up and running. Various different marks of 787 available. 787-8, 242 passengers. Of course, when you get these statistics, it depends very much on how that particular airline wants to configure their cabin. But the range of the 787-8 is around about 7,300 nautical miles. There's the 787-9, up the passenger load in two-class configuration, something like 290 passengers. The Dash 10 is the third member of the super efficient passenger pleasing 787. and that's in its development and creation. That's going to be around about 330 passengers. So depending on what operation you want to do, what range you want to do, where you want to go, and the passenger configuration depends on which variant of 787, or indeed a collection thereof, giving you maximum flexibility. The 787 has smooth ride technology. It senses motion due to turbulence and makes inputs to minimize the aeroplane motion, resulting in a much more pleasant ride for the passengers. Large windows. You can have it powered by Rolls-Royce or General Electric. Rolls-Royce Trent 1000. Coming into land to minimize the time on the runway, just to make up a bit of time. No problem with the tailwind at all. Tricycle landing gear by Messier Doughty. Operational cruise speed round about 0.85 Mach, similar to that of the 747-400. So the 727 lining up on the runway. Very successful aircraft, passenger aircraft in its time, now used for a very different purpose by the Oil Spill Response Unit, or Oil Spill Response Limited. Notice the registration he goes past. I think that's quite slick. And we've just had some really good information in Hall 4, stand F110, Hall 4, F110. There's a celebration going on to launch the Eurasia Airshow in Turkey. That is hot off the press as of only 4 minutes ago. So Eurasia Airshow in Turkey just been announced. There's a celebration going on now in Hall 4 with stand F110, which of course Farnborough International Limited will be assisting greatly, as they do with the Bahrain Airshow and various other shows around the world. So 4 minutes from knowledge to out, that's pretty slick. I won't keep that up for the rest of the week. Back as the 727 comes in, this is the industry's leading company in oil spill response. They are ready to go and response and intervention service worldwide. Quite a membership, represents the majority of global oil production. all responsible for quick deployment in the event of oil spill. And this is one such aircraft that would be used. You'll see at the rear end of the 727 some spray booms, a bit like farmers would use. Well, that will put out the detergent that will break down the oil and minimize damage to the environment, and of course to fishing stocks, and damage to the beach and birds and the whole environment. And there it is, I am told, just spraying water. That is what I'm told. If you get a degreasing, it's free. This aircraft, the only compliant jet-based dispersant system in the world, showcasing its amazing capabilities. All the best, Hannah. Hannah, you're sitting in the commentary box. You could have told me not emailed it to me. She's sitting 2 yards from me and emails it to me. I've got to read the email, and you could have said it yourself. Crikey. The youth of today, modern little devices. Gear down. .727 fitted with internal tanks, pumps and spray boom to deliver the dispersant liquid. Advantage of using a jet like this is it's fast in the cruise. It can crack along at a good speed to get on site quickly and efficiently and deliver quite a lot of weight in the way of dispersant. .727 now with gear flap down. .727, as I say, very efficient passenger aircraft in its day. Billions of passengers on all sorts of flights, from long flights to short hops. First Boeing jetliner to undergo rigorous fatigue testing as well. So you've gone from the 787 to the 727, quite a spread in the Boeing products in this centenary. You're looking on the big screens, leading edge devices deployed, trailing edge devices, all making that high speed wing into a slow speed wing, coming in for the landing and also for the takeoff, keeping the airflow nice and neat over the wing. As the oil spill response unit comes into land. Extremely efficient reversers with that bucket system. Instead of using the sleeves on modern high bypass turbofans where you only get 8% of forward thrust, the whole lot of that going through the buckets. You've seen that also, of course, on the Tornado. Well, not today, but if you've seen a Tornado before. I know you already know this fact out here, but when Boeing produced this aircraft in 1962, their plans and their hopes were a production of up to 250 units. Well, they exceeded that. They exceeded that because they sold 1,832 aircraft. That's how successful the 727 was. The 737 MAX, one of the latest 737s off the production line, starting his takeoff run. 737-8, there he is into the display. 56,000 pounds of thrust from those CFM engines. Leaping off the ground, high pull up. In their script from Boeing, they say it leaps off the ground, which is a reference not to the rate of climb, but to the CFM LEAP Engine 1B. It's like a BBC cut, this. Coming back into show centre. I mean, the 737, I have no idea how many total numbers of 737 in all variants have been produced. I do actually. It's 8,845 delivered variants. Up to the 1st of January this year, the 100 to 900 series models account for some 10,165 models. Read the notes, Stratton. Conventional medium-sized airliner with podded engines. Current models have greater range and speed than earlier variants. It's quieter, that's for cert. As I say, the CFM 56-7B turbofans. Got the very latest Honeywell Air Transport Systems Common Display Suite. 5 flat screen LCD screens with programmable technology. Has the same sort of EFIS system of the earlier generation 737s, but the navigational primary flight displays of both the 744-100 and the 777. So there's a combination thereof. You can see the pedigree of all Boeings going through all the Boeings as they develop all the way down the line. This is the latest version, the 3rd generation of this aircraft. On offer are the -7, -8, -9. This is one of them. It says so on the tail, the -8. A little wing rock as he comes past. I like the Boeing company colours. They suit the aircraft shape very, very well indeed. It cruises along at 0.785 Mach. Launch customer Hapag Lloyd of the -8 series. That will seat something like 162 passengers in a two-class configuration. So referring to our oracle of information, which is the very latest Jane's All the World's aircraft, the 2016-17 variant that we have in the commentary box. So thank you, Jane's, for keeping us up to date. This aircraft on order, 3,072 of this type on order. That is incredible. It's all there. And Jane's, if you care to look. Certain amount of checking going on in air traffic as the 737 circling. Formal rollout of this aircraft took place in December, 9th of December last year. It's planned that deliveries will kick off next year. The nose gear has been lengthened to maintain ground clearance of the engine pods. Well, that's a good idea. It means you can use them again. That's because of the LEAP 1B engines, CFM engines. Steep climb away with the gear down, flap out for you to have a look at the 7.3. So looking at the big screens, it is a graceful wing, again. Coming through for another fly past. Dirty configuration. Well, it's a very clean aeroplane. Dirty configuration is wrong sort of thing, but it's gear and flap out is where we get to that wording. European customers are expected to be AirCap, Avalon, Enter-Air, Icelandair, Monarch, Norwegian, Ryanair, SMBC Capital Aviation Capital rather, Sun Express, Travel Service, TUI and Turkish airliners. To name just a few. Just waiting until the 727 is clear of the runway. It's been pushed back into its roost on the south side. Once he's clear, the 7.3 will come into land. And indeed, we've had an update from Boeing that the market acceptance of now 3,214 firm orders from 66 customers worldwide. So that's the very latest off the press from Boeing. So I'm guessing the 7.2 is now in its roost, so we have the runway back for the 737 to come into land. We're just coordinating with air traffic because we do have a touring item, so we may just do a bit of a swap around of the display items because we're tight on our schedule for when we have to hand back the aircraft to, the airfield back to tag. So we've just done a bit of jiggling around because we're spilling over time a little bit. The next aircraft to display is airborne out of Fairford. He will be getting into position to come into display. We're anticipating it to be in 5 minutes time, but all things aviation are always fluid, so we might bring it forward. It's an aircraft that you do not want to miss. I think this is probably what a lot of people have been waiting to see. And this will be the arrival and demonstration and roll demo of the F-35. F-35B. I've been nagged. Crikey, all these experts around me. X, an unknown quantity, and a spurt is a drip under pressure. Well, the F-35 is in visual contact with us, so I'm going to hand over to the specialist expert commentator from the Royal Navy, Lieutenant Commander Adam Hogg. Adam, welcome to the commentary position.
Thank you very much. Well, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the first ever roll demonstration here at Farnborough Airshow. The Royal Air Force, Royal Navy, and United States Marine Corps take great pleasure in presenting the F-35B Lightning to you today. The world's only short takeoff, vertical landing, supersonic stealth trike fighter. You're about to view the future of British combat air power. Today you'll see Lieutenant Colonel Richard Rusnock from Pittston in Pennsylvania and part of Marine Operational Test and Evaluation Squadron 1 at Edwards Air Force Base, California, flying at the cutting edge of technology in the F-35B. Already an experienced fighter pilot, he's been flying the F-35B since 2011. Now look to your right, and you'll see the pilot come in for the first of 2 high-speed passes. Ladies and gentlemen, the F-35B Lightning. The Lightning is referred to as a 5th-generation air platform, the most advanced in the world, due to its combination of integrated sensors, weapons technology, and its low observability or stealth properties. The stealth technology allows the aircraft to fly in enemy airspace without being detected by radars that older aircraft cannot evade. The combination of stealth features, the APG-81 active electronically scanned array radar, the electronic warfare suite, advanced optics, and the ability to carry weapons internally means that the Lightning can engage targets at long range whilst avoiding detection. Lightning is capable of speeds of up to Mach 1.6, so that's 1.6 times the speed of sound, and can fly at heights of up to 50,000 feet. The highly advanced fly-by-wire control system makes it extremely agile and reduces pilot workload. Now look to your right and you'll see some of that agility now, as the aircraft comes back for a minimum radius turn near crowd center. We're very proud to show you what the F-35B can do today. It will fly from land and sea, from RF Marham in Norfolk, and from the decks of Britain's biggest warships. The Queen Elizabeth class aircraft carriers, which are being built in Scotland, are the only aircraft carriers in the world designed specifically for the F-35B Lightning. Now get those cameras ready. As the aircraft returns to ground center, the pilot will complete a slow pass that shows the profile of the aircraft to give you the best camera angle possible. The pilot is now maneuvering to configure the aircraft for STOVL flight, short takeoff and vertical landing. Approaching crowd center, he will command the aircraft to change to STOVL mode by pressing a single button in the cockpit. You will see several doors opening. The large door on the top of the aircraft, just behind the canopy, is the upper lift fan door, exposing the powerful lift fan that allows the aircraft to hover. You'll also see the doors at the rear of the aircraft, which open to allow the main engine exhaust nozzle, which is manufactured by Rolls-Royce and Bristol, to rotate downwards. Lightning has the most advanced, multi-role strike fighter technologies in the world. Its short takeoff and vertical landing capability will see it serve on board Britain's new Queen Elizabeth class carriers and to work out of locations inaccessible to conventional tactical aircraft. Lightning brings the most powerful and comprehensive integrated sensor package of any fighter aircraft in history. Its avionics and sensor fusion give the pilot real-time access to battlefield information with 360-degree coverage, allowing him to share this information with other aircraft and commanders on the ground or on the carrier. Now, Lieutenant Colonel Rusnock will bring the aircraft to a hover at crowd center. The entire weight of the aircraft will be supported by the thrust from the lift fan, main engine, and roll control nozzles, collectively generating up to 40,000 pounds of thrust. This ability to hover is unique to the F-35B variant, and is what allows it to be based on board aircraft carriers and in austere environments. Now, as the aircraft comes to the hover from the right-hand side, let's listen to the power of that engine. What an awesome sight. As you can see, the aircraft is now departing from the hover to return to its deployed airbase at RAF Fairford. As the aircraft accelerated away, you'll notice that the stoval doors have closed and the landing gear raised, returning the aircraft to conventional flight. Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes the demonstration of the F-35B Lightning. The Royal Air Force, Royal Navy and United States Marine Corps hope you have enjoyed this display of the future of combat air power.
Adam, thank you very much indeed. Magnificent display, really superb to see that aircraft here at Farnborough, birthplace of British aviation, and we're going right up to the very latest aircraft to being entering service. I know you're going to have a debrief with the team, thank them for their efforts of getting here. We're going to see you again. Let me put you back on mic if you're going to talk, it's easier that way. We're going to see you again for the rest of the day, the rest of the weeks.
Yep, we'll be back displaying on Friday.
So you're taking tomorrow off and the following day? Okay, I know it's been a long day for you. No, thank you very much indeed for that. That really is superb to see it. So do thank the team very much.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks very much.
So now we're looking for the Orion, the P8 that is taxiing out. So starting the takeoff run from Boeing, the P-8A Poseidon, twin-engine maritime reconnaissance surveillance aircraft being displayed for us by Boeing and the United States Navy. This is the Poseidon. Designed as a replacement for the Orion, which I did announce was flying a bit earlier. I know I did. But this is the replacement aircraft for that. Really, again, 737. 737-900 wings have been extended, rake tips rather than the usual winglets. Fuselage, that of a 737-800. Internal weapons bay is located in the aft fuselage. The wings are fitted with hard points for carriage of air-to-surface missiles. Further, 2 external stores points under the forward fuselage. The weapons bay can carry up to 5 658 kilo stores. Underwing and under fuselage points also available and fitted. Enlarged nose section houses the Raytheon maritime surveillance radar. It's the AN/APY-10 and an L3 Westcam digital electro-optical and infrared sensor system. I'm sure there's a mnemonic for all that lot. Other systems include the Northrop Grumman ESM suite, electronics warfare management system. Aircraft carry up to 126 sonar buoys, which are deployed by 3 loadable 10-round launchers. 7 operator stations, additional fuel stuffed down the back in the aft baggage hold, giving it great access. The weapons bay open and closing. It was in April, a couple of years ago, that Boeing began testing of the Raytheon Advanced Airborne Sensor. This involved fitting the testbed aircraft with a 12.4 metre or 40-foot sensor housing underneath the forward fuselage. It's anticipated that by August, a couple of months away, this year, the aerodynamic and structural testing will be complete of that configuration. July in 13, so 3 years ago, that the United States Navy declared that the P-8A was ready for introduction into service. The service has an order of 109 aircraft on order, and full production rate started a couple of years ago. Aircraft today configured with two inert, I'm glad to hear, AGM-84. They're the Harpoon missiles under the wings. As I say, the P-8 has 4 underwing pylons capable of carrying a variety of weapons in its multi-role maritime and anti-surface warfare missions. Boeing sees a significant export market for the P-8A Poseidon. The Indian Navy became the first overseas customer when they ordered 8 of them in September 2009. Options been retained for a further number of aircraft. Cruise speed around about 440 knots to achieve the maximum range, but if you're having a crack along you can add another 50 knots on that. It obviously cuts down your range. Time on station, having been deployed in excess of around about 1,200 miles, is 4 hours. So 1,200 miles away from where you start, you've got 4 hours loitering and you can get back. Announced yesterday at Farnborough, the United Kingdom has bought 9 of these aircraft at a cost of something like £3 billion, and that's all going to come in the next 10 years or so. February the 21st, 2014, the Australian government also ordered 8 Poseidons. Mind you, they were part of the development partner, so not a total surprise there, I guess. 2 operational bases for Poseidon are down at Jacksonville in Florida, and Whidbey Island up in Washington. Each frontline squadron consists of 6 aircraft, total of 5 squadrons based at Jacksonville, while 7 up in Washington. Some of the other plans involved. Plans are underway for the new winged version of the Raytheon, the Mark 54 torpedo, which would initially glide for much of the way to the intended target before entering the water to do its business. Remember, on your way home, tune in to Airshow Radio. They will give the traffic and travel. Follow the signs, follow the marshals, do a superb job. If you think you're smart and get a shortcut, you're going to end up down a cul-de-sac. Take your time on the way out. Here comes Poseidon from Boeing. We mentioned earlier this is a centenary that they will be celebrating on the 15th. And with Poseidon touching down very shortly after he's cleared the runway, the Flying Control Committee, sitting on the north side of the airfield, will hand the airfield back to its owners of TAG. And with Poseidon coming down the taxiway, as I say, ownership goes back to TAG for them to continue their operation, a very successful operation that they now run here at Farnborough from those beautiful hangars on the north side. That concludes the flying display for Tuesday. We got away with it with the weather. You know, the weather forecast, it was going to be fairly rough, I think is the most polite way of doing it, but we got away with it. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for turning up. My name is Stratton Ritchie. Have a safe drive home. If you're coming back later in the week, we'll see you then. Otherwise, we'll see you in 2018. I wish you all a very good evening.